Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. If you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. In a moment, I'm going to transition across to the photographs, and I will possibly come back with exactly the same information if we're not joined in the very near future. One last time, if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate.
Yo, yo.
How's it going? Good to have you here, Sleeping Warrior. First one in.
Wet the bed. Okay, so I guess whilst there's nobody in here, I can talk freely. I haven't got anything to talk about at the moment. Have you got anything? Oh yeah, you got a stream deck. Tell me about that. What are you doing with your stream deck?
Yeah, I've just put all the functions that are normally on the computer onto it, so it's buttons rather than mouse clicks, and it's quite handy. The first time I've started the show with it, I don't know if it's all working, functioning properly, I don't know, we'll see. Let's have a look. Yes, it's working, and it's streaming, and everything's good, and yes, great, wonderful.
You just got to learn your way around it.
Yep, just got to learn my way around it. And my chat message went out as well. We are live right now, please share the show. So yeah, good, no complaints.
So that should speed things up massively for you then, eh?
Yeah, now it's done. I mean, it took me hours and hours and hours because the thing kept crashing and losing all its settings. If I'd spend 2 hours getting it all in, looking beautiful, and then you go forward in a menu and back in a menu, and it'd all vanish. And he's like, "What's going on?" But that's resolved itself now. So yeah, very pleased.
It fixed itself, or did you fix it?
I don't know. I just restarted the computer. I think I can't remember what I did to get it to work. It was a long evening. I was up till about 4 in the morning. But yeah, it works now, seems to have saved all its settings from yesterday. No complaints.
I've not heard from Ranty for 24 hours.
Okay. It's probably just busy.
Just going to open up chat so I can see it.
So the subject I wanted to talk about, first and foremost, hold on, I'm going to cough, bear with me a second. So the subject I wanted to talk about is the WGS 84, or World Geodetic Survey 1984, and this is basically an azimuthal equidistant projection in a sphere of the heavens. That's what it is, and that's what many of the globe earthers are now choosing to use because it's the reference point that the Ordnance Survey map uses. So they've got a flat map, which is definitely not wrapped around a ball, and they're taking that flat map from its reference on the WGS 84, and that is an azimuthal equidistant projection inside a sphere. So essentially they're using a flat map from a flat map to prove it's a globe, and so far I've not heard any explanation for why we are using the WGS 84 with its flattening factor of almost 100%, which brings the disk of the azimuthal equidistant projection to 33 kilometers. That's the thickness of the world that Rumpus thinks he's on, because that's what he's using in terms of his reference points. He's using an azimuthal equidistant projection. Now, to my knowledge, now I'm not a believer in the AE projection, and, you know, for the most part of being a flat earther, I never have been. However, there's lots and lots and lots of globe earthers out there who are keen to debunk the azimuthal equidistant projection because it's often cited by flat earthers as a flat earth depiction of our world. So I'm interested to know why suddenly Rumpus is using the azimuthal equidistant projection at the heart of the WGS 84 as his reference for the world, because it most definitely is not a globe.
This takes me back to when we were arguing over using the Ordnance Survey map in the Hangouts on the Isle of Man. Rumpus was adamant that we should use the Ordnance Survey because it gave a significantly more favourable value of the observer height. And you innocently asked whether or not that was based on a flat map or a spherical map. And I went and got the answer. And if you want to fill for me while I'm answering phone, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's basically described as a spheroid, and basically that is has maths that goes along with it as an example. I'll probably bring this up on a different show. I've got all these on my iPad. I just haven't put them on my MPC yet, but I will probably do this for tomorrow and actually show people exactly what I mean. So hopefully in the meantime there's a few deniers who say, no, the survey isn't using a azimuthal equidistant projection. No way, we're using globes. Well, no, you're not. Definitely not. And I can show you that quite easily. And you only have to do a cursory Google search to find out what map is used at the heart of the WGS84. It is an AE projection. That's what's used. So that's your world. And I want to know how the people who are currently using this map defend it against all of the globe heads who claim that it's not a representative image of our world. On the contrary, you know, it's been debunked so many times by globeheads. I'd like to know now why a globehead's using it as his literal evidence that Earth's spherical, because it isn't on that map. So I don't really get it. I'm a bit confused. Just to bring heights down from observers by 30 or 40 feet, you're using a flat map of the world to do that. Bizarre, but that's the way it seems to be panning out. You're rejecting an actual sphere Earth model, Google Earth, that is actually based on a sphere. And instead you're using a flat pancake 33 kilometers thick disk world now. So there we go. Why?
Okay.
I'd love to know.
We have a guy in chat called Paul. Not quite sure how you pronounce that name. Is it Voigt? WGS84 is not an azimuthal equidistant projection. Any comment for that, Nath?
It's all right. You can maybe tell us what projection it is based on then, Paul Voigt. Tell us which map is used at the WGS84. Go look it up. Tell us which one it is. I'm sure you'll be surprised with the results.
That guy doesn't come back with evidence to support his position.
No, he just states things.
Especially when it doesn't support his position. He does if it does, but when it doesn't, he comes back with nothing. Pretends that it doesn't exist. Hopes everyone forgets about it. Thinks that we have a molten iron core to the centre of the Earth. Fool. No evidence for that one either.
If you can fill for me, I'll go and get this image and actually show him. Why not? I was going to do it tomorrow, but it'd take me a couple of minutes to send it to myself.
Sure. So, whilst there's 42 watching now, I'll give everybody a quick update of where we're at with the Isle of Man. Rumpus identified a particular building which has sparked a discussion between me, Nathan, Ranty, and Chris. And it's split 50-50. And it's not so much with the building that he's identified. We're happy to accept that he's got the building identification correct. And the issue is not whether or not the Earth's curved or flat or not. That video that we're showing on the Isle of Man is indeed a flat Earth video. It's a flat Earth proof. There is no curvature on it. So the issue that we're arguing over or that we disagree over is not even whether it's flat or curved. It is demonstrably and observably and repeatedly the case that there is no curvature in that video. However, what we are disagreeing over is the claim of the scale, because Rumpus has it in one way, we have it in another, and there's now a disparity between the four of us over the effect of the scale that's in question. Again, this is not about whether it's curved or flat. It is a flat Earth proof, a massive one. Now, the scale argument's important because basically, if the scale is as per Rumpus says, then basically there are certain things that do not line up, that need to line up, and it's because of the parallax. The picture was taken from 35 miles away for the most part of the island. Some parts of the island it's 40 miles away, but nonetheless, it's in excess of 30 miles. Now, from that distance, we can't get anything that we can, because you can't zoom on Google Earth. You can't get the parallax as though it was taken from 35 miles away. You can only get the parallax for if you're taken from like 5, 6, 8 miles away. So it's difficult to line anything up when you zoom in on Google Earth, because you can't take the picture. You can't explore Isle of Man as though you were stood at St. Bees, because you're not able to zoom. The parallax is an issue. So you have to do it with such a distorted perception of the reality in which you presented that nothing lines up. Now, we haven't found the ratio to make the parallax work. If there is indeed a ratio that works, we're relying on Rumpus's scale to be accurate. Now, what it does do is it gives you a nice, neat flat earth proof, flat as a pancake, no curvature whatsoever. Now, it is convenient, I agree. However, the inability for us to use it to line anything up is an issue. And that's the bit that we're struggling with. We're trying to find a way to show the parallax from 30 miles away, but apply it at 8 miles away. So that's where we're at. Nath, I've got to grab this call, dude. So if you could pick up again where you left off, I'm going to have to go on silent.
Yeah, no worries. I'm fiddling my way through things, but I'll continue to do exactly that. About a long pause. I don't know why I'm having such horrendous problems to just load this single picture. Something I've done about 1,000 times, which is bizarre, but there we go. It's struggling to actually open, but I'll ponder on until I get it open. Go.
Are we still here?
Yeah, I'm still in. Just trying to get this picture to open. Just having Bit of trouble doing it. I think I've cracked it just as you get back, of course. There we go. There's a picture of it. And I think I've got the maths as well. Let's just take that out. Give me a second.
Are there any fantasists out there that can come up with nonsense evidence to support the shape of the Earth?
Here we go. So, sorry to interrupt. Can I just show this to the audience? So, this is what you were talking about. I don't know if you can see my screen. The flattening factor F for the WGS 1984. Yeah, so the flattening factor equals A, the equatorial radius, minus C, polar radius, derived. Okay, that's this, divided by A, which is the same figure again, A. So this figure here, very similar, slightly smaller when you come to the polar radius, the derived figure. But the end figure, 1 over 300. You end up with a disk that is 33 miles in kilometre, and it's an AE projection. This is the world of the WGS 84. This is your world that you're using. It's not a sphere, it's not a globe. This is what it looks like. That is the WGS 84. That's what it looks like.
So, Wolfie 6020, if he was in here right now, he'd be spitting feathers at you because he's a pilot and he uses it every day and he knows it's a ball.
Well, that's the world they use for the datum. This is it. This is the World Geodetic Survey 1984. This is what it looks like. This is the stars. This is the celestial sphere. This is not where we live. This is not the bit that we live on. This is the bit we live on.
So all that time that Tim's been telling us about the celestial sphere, he's kind of got his interpretation wrong then, right?
Yeah. Basically, you guys, your geodetic survey that you all think is representative of a globe model isn't in any way, shape or form representative of a globe. Sorry, it's a flattened out disc with a celestial sphere around it. That's what you're using. That's what the Ordnance Surveys use. That's the world that you're now referring to.
M. Scott Veach, what is your current claim about seeing Ireland? Have you got a conclusion on that? For testing
Paul's denying it. I'll put it back on screen permanently, just for Paul.
Yeah. We're testing Rumpus's claim on
WGS 84. Description. Here's the formula for the flattening factor, Paul. Deny it all you like. I don't care. Just a liar.
Oh, right. He calls you a liar. He says,
yeah, sure. Well, he's a liar. It's on screen, Paul. You go and show me the map you think it uses. Prove it to the world like I've just done. Till then, you're just a liar in chat, keyboard warrior. Links in the description if you want to challenge what I've just said, Paul. Feel free to join. Embargo's over. Many of your compadres have joined.
Nathan Oakley, that is not the WGS 84 reference, Joyd. Go back to your YouTube university and try again, Nathan Oakley. He does quote something different earlier on.
Just ignore him. Not interested. Come on the show, Paul. You challenge me on the show and tell me what map it uses.
Currently, WGS 84 uses the EGM 96. That was an earlier version of the WGS 84, Paul. Are you misrepresenting what's going on there?
Seems so. Paul's just a liar. Just a liar.
WGS 84 uses the EGM 96. Right. This isn't this. I've not looked at this for a long time. That was quick. Is he going to speak?
Need to speak if you join.
Right. This geoid defines a nominal sea surface by means of spherical.
Are you behind your mic again? You're really muffled.
Oh, am I? Oh, hang on. Is that better?
Yep.
I was speaking into the top of it because I had it too high. Remember how you used to when you first started?
Like I did, yeah.
And that's the difference between the sound. Okay. Let's have a look. I've lost where I'm up to now with what's his name. Right, let's see. What was that about? Something about a goat. Take some horny goat's weed. That'll teach you what the parallax is. Horny goat's weed.
Arwin has had some powder that he bought from InfoWars. I have no idea.
Oh. All right.
Apparently increases masculinity or some shite like that.
Hence the reason why it's coming from Arwin's horny goat's weed.
Yep.
Right, I get it. So there's no fantasists in chat that are prepared to come in and talk about the nonsense shape of the Earth that they believe that we live on. No evidence, just nonsense. Fantasists. Yeah, so back to Scott Veach, M. Scott Veach. We're testing Rumpus's claim on the scale. And I'll be honest, there is a part of it that works, and it's persuasive, but there's also a part that does not work, and we're struggling to test it because it's to do with the parallax from 30 miles away. We can only really test it from about 8 miles away. So it messes everything up. And basically, we're unable to verify the scale when it comes to picking out evidence in the picture. For example, if we pick up the 3 lights far left, we want to know what them 3 lights are on the scale. Now, they're not too bad then because they don't parallax from 30 miles away, but everything else down the island does. So they're the things we're trying to find and test. And we're having to find a way to make the parallax work from 8 miles as though it was from 30 miles. And it's just hard. We're not able to find it out yet. It's not working yet. So we're testing it at the moment, and it is divided, but it doesn't mean that we disagree. It just means that we don't really agree. But we're working on it, and we're giving it time because he's obviously spent time on it. And I haven't watched this whole video because he does nothing but talk about me in the context of, well, Anthony doesn't understand that, therefore he's just stupid and things like that. And I'm not going to sit around and watch somebody that talks like that. All I wanted to know was what was his claim on the particular lights, and from that we can extrapolate the nonsense rest. So we've extrapolated the nonsense rest, and there are parts of it that I agree with, but there's other parts of it that I disagree with, specific ones that I disagree with that we haven't come to a consensus on yet because it doesn't appear to be right, in my opinion. I need other evidence to support Rumpus's position because at the moment it's not working for me, even though it does work for Nathan and it does work for Chris. So I don't think there's any point in like pretending that we're not in some kind of element of disagreement. We disagree, and we're just trying to work out what is the truth and work out what the science is that fits it. And if we get to a consensus, whichever way it goes, then we'll get to a consensus. But right now, it's still in discussion. It's still testing it to work it out and see if it is what it claims to be. So that's where we're at.
Paul claims that it's the geoid that's referenced, and he seems to be ignoring this, which I've just gone through, which is the flattening factor. So yes, it starts off as a geoid and gets flattened to 33 kilometers in thickness, Paul. That's what the flattening factor does.
Yeah, I remember when Paul struggled with the word reduced in the conversation with.
Well, in this instance, it's not reduced; it's the word flattening.
Yeah, I was going to say last time it was reduced, and this time it's the word flattening. And Paul seems to struggle with those two words. I think Nathan explained it pretty well, to be honest. It flattens it, Paul. It reduces it back to a flat shape, and that's what you guys believe that is the sphere-oid datum nonsense.
So it seems like that's their defense. It's based on a geoid. Yes, it is based on a geoid that is flattened and has a flattening factor. I've just shown you the maths. Makes it flat, Paul. It uses an AE map. That's what it uses. If you want to tell me that it uses a different map at its core, feel free. You've said it references the... What was it he said? Something about gravity at its centre? No, the AE map is at the centre. Go and look it up.
Nathan Oakley, you are literally absurdly wrong. You're misreading it. The flattening factor is the difference between polar and equatorial diameter. And in total, that's 0.3 eccentricity. It's the flattening factor. The flattening factor is the difference between the polar and the equatorial diameter. Is that true?
Well, no, because the polar is a derived figure. It's not the actual figure, it's a figure they derive.
Nathan Oakley, you are misinterpreting the maths. The flattening factor does not flatten the geoid. What does the flattening factor do?
That's exactly
then,
what it does. It flattens it out to 33 kilometers. That's how thick the disc is. That's what the flattening factor does. Do the maths.
Where is Ranty?
So I've got Ron Burgundy in the chat says, Monk and Ranty part of the team boycott now? Well, no, not at all. So two of the people currently on, so me and Anthony, don't necessarily agree on the interpretation. Simple as that. Now that doesn't mean we won't agree in time, it just takes time. You know, we're not going to just say, yeah, that's right, great, let's move on. You've got to check it, double check it, triple check it, falsify it, make the model break. That's what we're trying to do. It's what we've done in the past, try and force failure. So that's what we're trying to do now, trying to force failure. It's not a quick process.
And just for the benefit of everybody else, I've forced 2 failures that they're claiming as success. But they're not. They failed. But anyway, that's the whole point. When you test an assertion, you're testing the validity of the claim. And that's the first thing you do. You test the validity of the claim and see, does it do what they say it does? And that's what we're working on.
It's getting there quite quickly, relatively speaking, on account of the fact that there's usually a pretty consistent consensus amongst the 4 of us. We tend to agree. For the most part, you know, 80% of the time. In this instance, it's 50-50 right down the middle, but that means it's rapidly getting falsified. We're rapidly trying to rip it to pieces. You know, that's what's happening because 2 of the people say, no, I don't think that's correct. Let's try this, let's try that, let's try the other. So we're not necessarily in this instance relying on the Globers to try and falsify our assertions. We can do it ourselves because we're not in agreement, which just makes the process a little bit quicker, but it still has to be done. You have to model it out, you have to falsify it, you have to test it.
Well, we're in a position where we've got that 3D model that we literally, all we've got to do is play with the scale. Well, I say we, Chris. Chris plays with the scale, moves it up and down a bit, moves things in and out a bit, left and right a bit, jiggle it around a bit, and we can test all aspects of it in 30 seconds, or Chris can. And then when he does that, we all interpret what we look at when he does it, and then we all look at it and go, yeah, that's a match, or not sure, let's try that. And I'm in the not sure camp, let's try that. Now, I don't really care what the scale is, because in any event, it's still a huge lack of curvature. It's still a flat earth proof. I just want to know. I was just
going to say that again to Captain Bullshit. So he's under the assumption that somehow what we've presented to date is in any way incorrect. Wrong. What we've presented to date is how the globe fails. So yes, we may have had some of the land masses incorrect in the failed models. So far, whenever asked, what's your model? How do you explain this? We have to give a very honest answer. We don't have one. That's the bottom line. We never have. No one has. However, that's the beauty of what's happening. We are now getting ever and ever closer to a flat Earth model that can explain in detail what's happening and can make predictions. So where your model has failed, completely failed, to represent the image and predict what is going to happen further along in the image, we will have a model that will accurately represent it. That we don't have to have Gish Gallop and fantasy to explain where it fails, which is what you have to do. You need slightly looming non-standard refraction to explain where your model fails, to represent what's in the image. That's what's been demonstrated so far. Failure on the globe part. We haven't got a flat Earth model. When we do, I'm pretty sure you'll all sink your teeth into it. But that's why we're going to be absolutely 100% certain. You know, Chris is not going to want to put his reputation on the line and say, yes, this is how the world works. This is an accurate flat Earth model, unless it's absolutely 100% perfect. It's a very different ball game when you're presenting failing models.
And whilst we see Miles Davis in the chat, nice to see you, Miles. I'm looking forward to your very public apology to Ranty for calling him a liar and then literally flip-flopping from your position on the Christmas show with Nathan, where you declared the total opposite position from where you were, and then claimed victory against Ranty in some vitriolic state, yet not letting everybody realize that you totally flip-flopped. So he's been calling you out for it, and I'm looking forward to your very, very public apology on your channel and probably in this channel when the embargo gets lifted about how you lied about Ranty lying and how you, in fact, are the liar yourself. Yes, you were on the Christmas show, Miles. We can show it right now.
So M. Scott Veach says, refraction is not some kind of band-aid. Yeah, I'm afraid it is, because as far as I'm aware, you don't have any non-standard refraction calculations that are incorporated into the model. It is an on-the-fly calculation that you do when the standard refraction, which you claim is part of your model, fails. So I'm afraid not, M. Scott Veach.
See, the thing is,
fails.
They use the word refraction to explain two phenomena. Now, obviously, the refraction, as per their model, is the bending of light following the arc radius of 7/6 of the radius of the Earth. That's refraction, right? That is not refraction that we're seeing on the horizon, which they also claim is refraction, which is that little shimmering bit of fuzziness that I like to refer to as dirty air, because I don't know what the phrase is, but we can see it, and everyone knows what I'm referring to when I say it. So you use the word interchangeably to describe two different sets of circumstances. But when you look at refraction on your model, it is clearly the curvature of light. Now, that is not what you're citing when you cite, oh, there's a little bit of refraction on the horizon. Well, that's not the refraction on your model. That's the refraction on our model to explain the obstruction that we see at the horizon. There is a little bit of a shimmer, and it stops us from seeing the land. Now, where it's present, it varies. And when it varies enough, you don't see very much because you see a big mirroring band. But when there's not very much of it, you see an awful lot more, and you also see an awful lot less of the curvature. So what you guys claim is the obstruction of the horizon caused by curvature, we're all looking at it going, no, that's some element of refraction, and it's refraction as per flat Earth. It's not refraction as per ball Earth, because your ball Earth nonsense is about 7/6 of the radius. Or had you forgotten about that metabunk nonsense?
The bottom line is, if you go to your model and ask it to predict what's going to happen, it fails. That's the bottom line here. You can extrapolate out with a band-aid what's happening to explain the failure. Well, we will have something very different to present once this little debacle has been concluded, which is to say we will have something that does represent everything in the image with evidence that you can picture, point out, demonstrate and observe with an explanation in a model that works, that doesn't fail to account for everything that's in the picture. That's what we will have. A working model where you have a band-aid theory for a failing model.
All right, this is interesting from Paul. He claims that he's got an email from Doug Sim at St. Bees Council. I'd love to know who Doug Sim is and what his qualifications are to make some kind of authority to the observer height as 35 meters, because I've been out and measured it, Paul, and it's accurate at 35 feet. In fact, it came in at 2 feet below, if you really want to know. And if you give yourself a little bit of leeway for me being a flat earther, that'll probably put it back onto 35 feet, not meters. So I would suggest that Doug has got the tape measure the wrong way around, because I've actually measured it, Paul. So I'd like you to send me a copy of that email, and I've provided you the email address in the side chat, Paul, and then I'll display it on screen so we can all see it. And then what I'll do is I'll ring ring Doug, and I'll speak to him and I'll say, I've measured that hill, Doug. Are you sure you got meters and not feet? I'm pretty sure he's used the word meters instead of the word feet. Not uncommon for council workers not to have much intelligence, Paul. You know that, and I know that. So I'd call him out on that if you could produce evidence, and I'd do it on the phone right now. Miles the Liar Davis. Don't bother reading anything from him because he talks lies.
Miles Davis coming up with ad hoc gishgallop about the flattening factor. The maths was on screen. I know what the maths works out to. I've seen it being worked out by Chris. It works out to a 33-kilometre disc. That's the depth of the disc. That's what it ends out to. The maths has been on screen. Feel free to double check it. I've seen it done with my own eyes. I haven't done it. I've watched Chris do it. Simple. He's then modelled it. That's what you end up with. It is an azimuthal equidistant projection that is 33 kilometres in thickness at the centre of a celestial sphere. That's what the WGS-84 is. You don't have to like it.
And Miles is a liar, so anything he says is instantly dismissed until he apologises to Ranty for calling him a liar, for flip-flopping in his position and then claiming a credit, just like Wallace did on the Bedford Levels experiment, the charlatan that he was. Right, GeoStreamer, if you've measured it, present your video when you measured it so we can verify it. Nath, do you want to address that?
We're not trying to debunk the heights on Google, GeoStreamer. If you'd like to go out and make a little video debunking the heights on Google, you be our guest. As has always been the case, the stated values are the values on your sphere model. What you are now using is a model that references the WGS-84 and is an azimuthal equidistant projection at the centre of a celestial sphere. That is where you are getting your heights from, and that is what you think represents your sphere Earth. It doesn't, but that's fine. I'm more than happy for you to now start making apologies for why all of your globe head friends seem to debunk the azimuthal equidistant projection as any kind of reality representation. So you want to defend it? Go ahead. In terms of the heights, we are taking the heights from Google Earth because it is a spherical Earth model. If you want to now claim that the model of the WGS-84 that is being used to create Ordnance Survey maps is actually a spherical Earth, then you be my guest. If you want to debunk that Google Heights are incorrect, you be my guest. I couldn't care less. I've seen it measured, it's not wildly inaccurate, there is no need to change those figures. If you want to now go out and change them because you've debunked Google Earth in your own special little way, good for you. I may even pay it attention. But in this respect, I don't care. I've seen it's not wildly inaccurate. We're not going to make any apologies. If we were in any way inconfident or not confident about this, we wouldn't be stating it. I don't care. No one's going to come along and debunk that 35-foot observation as being 100 feet in the air. It isn't. Simple as that. And Anthony Riley doesn't have to prove a thing in that regard. He's always maintained that he's taking his values from Google Earth. He's not testing whether or not Google Earth has got correct altitudes. He's testing whether or not the Earth is spherical. Simple. If you want to debunk Google, be our guest.
And just to add some maths to the equation, Geostreet, because I know that you love the maths, I threw a tape measure down from the top of the hill where I was at, and I threw it down to the beach level, and the hypotenuse measured at 55 feet, give or take half a foot. It was blowing in the wind, and it was stretching and shrinking, a bit like refraction as per the flat Earth model, but the average value was 55 feet. That was the hypotenuse. And then when we measured the angle down at the bottom, it was about 40 degrees. So if you do the maths, you can calculate that it turns out to be pretty much exact. Now, you can't argue with the length of the hypotenuse. That was black and white at 55 feet. You can argue about how accurate the angle was. Hence the reason why we're not producing the evidence. Because it isn't my claim. This is your claim. And all I was doing was testing whether it was outlandishly inaccurate to 30 meters, which is 100 feet. Was it 30 meters inaccurate on the elevation thing, which is what Paul cited as the band of variation? And that's all I was testing. And to be honest, the angle isn't even that important from our point of view, because you can roughly guess it from just the level of the length of the hypotenuse. And we knew what figure roughly to expect. We knew it was going to fall within 2 parameters, and it fell within 2 parameters. It wasn't wildly inaccurate. It was pretty accurate. So I went and measured it. But because you guys are so anally retentive over everything that I do, there is no point in me producing any evidence, because there is no point in me opening myself to the nonsense that you guys will critique me for. So there is no point in me doing it. And I'm not going to do it because I'm not testing the accuracy of the elevation on Google Earth. I'm just testing the curvature. And I'm just proving that claim of 30 meters of variance is nonsense in this example. It might not be accurate at the top of Mount Everest, that you might get 30 meters of variation there, but you're not going to get it at sea level. And I was pretty much at sea level. And it turned out it was accurate. So that's why the observer height stays at 35 feet. And only 35 feet.
The rig is asking about various different directions. I assume he's talking in reference to the azimuthal equidistant projection. That's not my model. So I'm not going to be an apologist for why the globers are using an azimuthal equidistant projection to represent their world. I'm not going to apologise for that. It's not my model. When we do have a model, it'll be a model of the observer position from the Isle of Man and incorporating the Isle of Man. That's what it will be. It's not going to be a global model. However, the global model that is currently being referenced isn't a globe. It's a flat map. Same as the Ordnance Survey.
And nice to see Al K in the chat. Looking forward to you finally releasing your video where you show your Isle of Man. We've been waiting for weeks. Don't see any reason why you've not released it yet, Al K. Oh, Jeremy. Oh, hello, Jeremy. Looking forward to your very, very public apology for me and retraction of your claims that I was indeed lying about the observer height. Looking forward to you removing your nonsense videos that I haven't watched. No point in measuring your elevation of a place where you weren't standing, Riley. Jeremy, you've admitted and accepted where I was stood because Miles and Al Kay went back to do it, and you acknowledged publicly in the hangout. You said, "Yeah, that's the point where he was standing." So I don't know. I don't even know what your point is anymore, Jeremy. You're just an idiot. You're just trying to discredit me at all costs, and nonetheless, you get traction within your own little group. But you just make yourself look like a knob. That's the only way to describe it. Allow me to repeat, you are lying right now. Okay, so Jeremy, which bit specifically am I lying about?
This is about observation height. I'm just not interested anymore, I've got to be honest. No one's going to come along and suddenly pull a cat out the hat and prove that you're wrong in terms of that observation height. If they were going to, they'd have done it already. They didn't. That's why you had to go and verify that it isn't massively and wildly inaccurate, you know. But
so I'm lying about my position, even though the position was in the video. You saw me stood next to the caravans, Jeremy. Why would that be a lie? Are you saying that in some way the video was faked to make it look like I was somewhere else? Talking nonsense, Jeremy.
It's just nonsense. I'm sick of talking about it. It's just ridiculous. If someone wants to go and prove that that 35-foot elevation position is at 100 feet plus, then go ahead and do it. Now go and prove it's at 100 feet.
Observation height, observation position. Right, well, it's clearly ascertainable in the video where I was stood. You can see it. And the observation height, I've measured it, Jeremy. I've measured it. So unless you've got evidence to the contrary, and Paul claims that he's got evidence to the contrary, I'm just going to check my
he thinks a phone call to a council worker who said, "Oh yeah, maybe the numbers are wrong on the map." That's his evidence. Pile of crap.
Nope, not had an email yet from Paul Voigt, even though I've asked him to send me the email of the council official that claims that it's 33 meters. Because I'll call him. I'll literally get him on the phone right now, and I'll ask him: is it perhaps possible that you've used the wrong units because I've measured it?
So, Jem's saying, do you have evidence to the contrary? We have Google. That's what's being referenced. If you want to go out and debunk Google, be our guest.
And yeah, we do have evidence to the contrary, Jeremy. We went and measured it. I went through the maths before. It was 55 feet for the hypotenuse. The angle was about... but it wouldn't make any difference anyway, Jeremy.
Are you giving that data out now, then?
I don't know, were we? Were we not doing that?
Well, I don't know why you've given it out now. So, I don't know if anybody caught that. But if you want to know the measurement, go right, rewind, and listen to what Anthony just said, because he's just given you the measurement.
Well, the point is, it's been measured, and... Oh, Jeremy has it. Here we go. Jeremy has evidence to the contrary. Okay, I'll call you on that, Jeremy. What evidence have you got to the contrary?
We already showed that Google is wrong. The height's up to 30 meters. According to what GeoStreamer, the azimuthal equidistant projection at the heart of the geoid that is called the WGS84, is that what you're saying debunks your sphere model, the actual one that's on a sphere? Well, that's really nice. Let's see you prove that Google Earth, the sphere representation of your model, is completely wrong in terms of the heights. Go ahead and make a video. Debunk it. Love to see it. Fascinating, I'm sure. Totally irrelevant when we're testing the heights that Google give. And we've gone and confirmed that they are not wildly inaccurate. Now, if you want to prove they are, be our guest. That's not our purpose here. I don't care. Not interested.
So Geo claims that they've already showed that Google is wrong on height by up to 30 meters, Nathan Oakley. That's why we use Ordnance Survey, because they measure heights more accurately. Well, I went back to there, I measured the height of that hill, Geo, and it was pretty accurate, within 2 feet, and it was 2 feet in our favour, not 2 feet in your favour. So that's why I stand by. I measured it. Now, whether you calculated it or not is irrelevant. I've measured it, and I stand by what was said.
This is why I didn't want you to give out the measurement, because you're now immediately putting your extrapolation on it, which is that it's 2 feet in your favour. And as I said to you when you showed it me, all that matters is the number on the tape measure in that regard. Now, if you want to extrapolate down because you've taken the hypotenuse measurement, obviously that would reduce the number on the tape measure. However, you haven't measured down to sea level. So, you know, there's going to be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other in terms of arguing that height up a little bit and then down a little bit, referencing the number on the tape measure. So in other words, unless you can do a physical geodetic survey from sea level, it's not going to be 100% accurate. What it does serve, though, unequivocally serves is that it is not 100 feet. There's just no way. It's nowhere near. So from that perspective, I don't care if it's 100% accurate on Google. I know it's not wildly inaccurate. And for it to be 30 metres rather than 34 feet, it would need to be, in quotes, wildly inaccurate. And it isn't. Now, if somebody wants to go out for that purpose to demonstrate that Google Earth is wildly inaccurate, be our guest. I don't care. Literally, I couldn't care less. If you want to go and say, well, look, we've got two different reference points. One on a sphere that's completely wrong. I've got no evidence to prove that, but I'm going to assert it and say that the Ordnance Survey maps are the accurate measurement. Then fine. I will then point out to you that they reference the WGS 84, and that is an azimuthal equidistant projection at the heart of the celestial sphere. It is using a geoid reference system that is flattened out to a disk 33 kilometres in thickness. That is the world represented in the WGS 84. That's the world that you're saying is a sphere, and that's the world you want to use for the heights. Good. Seems like you're coming over to our side of the fence. You've got a long way to go. You'll need to appreciate that the AE map has been debunked by your own kind, consistently. That's what you'd need to accept. But if your step along that journey towards realising the Earth is obviously and observably flat, means that you go into believing that the AE projection is accurate, as Rumpus clearly does, then that's fine too. You're just a bit behind everybody else, GeoStreber. That's okay. Yes, Arev, they want to use a completely different model that's represented by an azimuthal equidistant projection. So they've been using the Ordnance Survey maps. Flat maps, definitely not wrapped around any balls. And then that references another flat map, which definitely isn't wrapped around any balls. It's referenced to a geoid which is flattened, the end result being a flat map with the celestial sphere around it. That's what they're using. No globe in that picture. None. There isn't a globe there because it isn't one. But that's what they want to use. Good for them. Seems they're well on the way to becoming fully fledged flat earthers. You'll have flat earth asshole to deal with though if you're going to argue that the AE map's real. It is heavy stuff, Arev. You're not wrong. Oh, it seems they've all moved off topic in the chat. No longer interested in defending the azimuthal equidistant projection as a representative model of their sphere. Fair enough. Very interesting. But I am looking forward to future proofs that the AE projection is real from the globe side, now that they're referencing it for heights of things. Obviously, it's a very useful model, used in many different applications. So prove it, Ron. If you want to claim that they've got a 30-metre error, go and prove it. Just do a quick shout out to slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena. Hope you're out there. Yeah, Twit. We've invited a few people on to challenge us about the azimuthal equidistant projection at the core of the WGS84, but no one seems to want to join the panel and disagree or show us any alternative that they think it uses. So I'd rather have dead air. While we make these assertions that nobody's prepared to challenge. It's fine by me.
The astrophysicist, Nathan Oakley. Is every live stream focused on the Isle of Man? No, not at all. I was invited to join a panel a while back by Bruce Banner, but I did not see how I could be of any use here. I specialise in astronomy. Okay, maybe you could tell us about how you know the distance to the sun, or maybe the stars.
Transit of Venus.
Yeah, and Jupiter. Why Jupiter doesn't go missing for like 4 months, and it should do according to the astrophysics. It only goes missing for like 3 weeks. Why is that? Pete Shea, you can come on and talk to us about interesting stuff. Paul McCartney, I'm with you on that one. GeoStreamer, I'm wondering why Nathan is ignoring you. Because he talks rubbish. GeoStreamer, what's he say? Come on, Nathan, I've given coordinates to show how inaccurate Google Earth can be. So, what's he on about?
Show us.
Pete Shea,
Feel free to
I don't
show
see
us.
any comments aimed at Nathan, to be honest, from GeoStreamer. Oh, there we go. Again, you're committing the fallacy of false concreteness. You mix up the model with the map. I'm not seeing anything that he's...
Hello, Alan.
Good morning, boys.
38.
How are you doing?
Very well.
I'm just off down the shops. I can't be long. Do you want anything?
Bit of evidence for curvature, maybe? Ask them if they've
Axial
got any
rotation?
evidence to support axial rotation while you're there.
Proof of
One
gravity,
big
maybe?
bag of evidence.
Evidence
And
of curvature?
a couple of gravitational constants for me.
Do
I'll have
you
a
want some? Do
gravitational constant in the morning.
you want some bombs?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
just a bit of gravitational constant.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Alan. It's good to see you.
I bet these snipes me now, the little shine.
I do actually like Alan. Now he's given up on the sniping.
Well, I wouldn't say he's given up. It's quite certain. I sweat when he comes in.
Why?
Because I know that I'm a finger's breadth away from being sniped. And he seems to be allowed in at the
No,
moment.
he's been on several times now and hasn't done it.
Right, what's the coordinates that GeoStream was on about? The
That's a
WGS84 datum surface is an oblate spheroid with a major radius A equals blah 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 at the equator and flattening F equals the polar semi-minor axis B then equals AX times 1 minus F equals blah 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 blah. Thanks for that nonsense, Paul. Still flat.
Hoping Chris will come on and talk us through his WGS84 model.
Come on, Nathan, bring up my coordinates. I just copied and pasted them coordinates into Google Earth, and it didn't do anything. So let's see where I got it wrong.
Yeah, probably best not to ask me, Geo, not because I don't want to do it, just because as soon as I start bringing things up on screen, I can't see the Hangout page anymore. But yeah, I gave up on that probably about 50 shows ago, doing the actual demos and clicking on people's links and demonstrating stuff for them. Feel free to come on and show us yourself. Obviously, it's better if you make your point rather than us trying to make it for you.
Have you found out why? Hey, Gio, by the way, I saw what you did with what's his face Spurs map. It would appear, based on Spurs' moon, that you rotated it an awful lot, and I was just wondering why that was the case, because it looked to me that it was orientated correctly in the first place. I might be wrong, but Spurs went through it with me last night, and I said, why did he change it so much? And he said, because he said he was facing east. And I was like, what? And then he showed me the bit in the video, and I looked at it, and I thought, surely the moon would be in the same orientation, regardless of where he was facing, because he's going to be all he's got to do is, unless he's upside down on his camera, and it didn't appear to be the case. I just want to know what's the explanation on the heliocentric model for what Spurs is asking. How does it go one way then the other? And I didn't see anything that was making sense in terms of. I saw a lot of ridicule and a lot of dismissal, but I didn't see anything that was like persuasive because Spurs said it. I just didn't get what he was talking about. I said, is it because he did it badly or because you don't understand the point he's making? He said he didn't really make a point. He said that he was facing the opposite direction. And I was like, the camera's pointing up though, wasn't it? Anyway, Sleeping Warrior, are you on board with Paul being the dodo? I don't know about Paul being the dodo, but I'm definitely on board with Paul dying. Paul McCartney was killed in a car crash on Menlove Avenue. Or it might have been John Lennon's mum was killed on Menlove Avenue, so he was on Mather Avenue. So this is Chris Monk WGS84 model. In other words, it's totally useless and completely wrong. No wonder you're making such a stupid claim. I think Chris Monk could run circles around you, Paul. High school teacher that you are.
I think Rumpus is a worthy adversary, but Paul, nah.
I can't stand listening to Rumpus though, because he can't help but do the bitchiness where he says things like, well, I know Anthony doesn't understand this, so therefore I'll present 15 minutes on it and then say at the end of it that Anthony doesn't understand it for a second time. And I'm like, you don't understand anything about what I understand, Paul. Not Paul, Rumpus. GeoStreamer, can you bring up the coordinates that Nathan doesn't want to show in Google Earth? I've done it twice, Geo, to be honest, and it didn't work the second time. Can you just repost them so I can just literally copy and paste into Google Earth and I'll do it? But I didn't get a match for the coordinates when I copied and pasted them. So I'm up for doing it. I just want the actual thing.
So while they're getting posted, I'll do a quick link as we're coming up on approximately 1 hour left. Oh, good timing. Come here, Munchkin. If you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live, but most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, be sure to mute the page you are currently watching and obey the couple of rules that we do have in the stream. Firstly, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please do not try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show if you've not done so already, as this increases the live audience, which in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is approximately 1 hour left on this live stream.
All right, so Paul Voigt says, in other words, Nathan cannot provide a reliable citation from a respectable source about his WGS84 claims. Very telling, or should I say lying. Let's paraphrase that, Paul. In other words, Paul Voigt will not send an email at my request to the email address cited in the correspondence above from the said council worker with the name that he gave about the elevation of the hill that I claim I was at 35 feet from. Isn't that very telling, Paul? So how can you criticize Nathan for not doing what you say is not done when you're doing the exact same yourself, you hypocrite? Send the email, Paul. You can have my email address to my Hotmail one, you know, the special one for ball earthers that can't be trusted with real email addresses.
I'm pretty sure Chris will want to twist the knife on this one. I'm pretty sure Chris will happily back up exactly what he has asserted to me and I have repeated here today. I'm sure he will.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he'd look at these people in chat and laugh and say they're not worth my time. And I would tend to agree. You could probably do it yourself, Paul, with a little bit of research. That's not the real Nick with Noel. Oh, it might be, actually. He's hiding his subscriber numbers now, so we can treat him as a troll. I gave you his name, Doug Sim, calling yourself. Paul, send me the email because I'd like some credible evidence before I ring anybody called Doug Sim because I want to read what he's told you. Send me the email. I'll do it live on. I'll do it right now, live on the show. I'll ring Doug Sim and I'll ask him: is it possible he's mistaken his meters for feet because I've measured it and I don't agree with him? I'll do it right now. So send us the email, Paul.
Yeah, bottom line, Paul, we're calling you bluff.
Yeah, I'm saying you're a liar, Paul.
Yeah, no two ways about it.
Paul knows how WGS84 works, and I haven't got it right. Okay, well, I know how evidence works, Paul. And when you make a claim that somebody from the council claims this, that, or the other, and I ask you to produce it, then guess what? If you don't produce it, it's called lying, Paul.
So somebody please type into the chat the name of the map that is at the centre of the WGS84. If it is not the azimuthal equidistant projection, please tell me what it is.
Did you say meet is for feet? Meters for feet here.
So we've got Baz saying, it's a globe. Well, which globe? Tell us which one is at the centre of this geoid, please. Baz, if you would. Sure it has a name?
Does Chris share the Blender file so we can see how he unwrapped a sphere with the maths? No, he doesn't share it because he puts a lot of time and effort into it. You can build it yourself. If you can't do that, tough.
Hold on. That's not strictly accurate. So that's kind of the point. When we get to the stage... Hold on, we've got Alex. How you doing? Good to have you, Geostreamer.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Loud and clear.
All right, yeah, I'm still experimenting with this new microphone, and I'm still not sure that it works all the time.
Sounds excellent.
I can show you guys right now that there's an error of at least 15 meters in Google Earth. That is only using pictures that are available right now on the system.
So,
want to see it?
What would you be achieving? What are you trying to show?
Let's see it first. Let's see it.
That what I want to show you is that it's not a good idea to use high data in Google Earth, especially at at sharp edges like cliffs, for example.
Well, unless you can show it where I was stood, then it wouldn't be serving any purpose.
Well, if I can show it at a different location, it's reasonable to assume that this error is everywhere, right?
No, not at all. That's complete and utter nonsense.
Did you not just hear? I've seen a measure run down it.
No. Let me just show this. So, just for a little bit of orientation, we're in northern. This is in northern Bavaria. My hometown of Fürth is here. Here's Nuremberg. Now, when we zoom into this, are you actually sharing my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So there's this forest over here, and this forest was actually scanned twice. One using apparently more modern system where you can see the sharp edges of the individual trees, and one where this was only using the old data. You can see that the edges of the trees here are quite sharp, where on this side they aren't. Just to show this. Wait. Just to reference this a bit, it's actually so sharp that you can see individual power lines next to it.
So, Alex, sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask, are you breaking rules here? Breaking rank?
Am I what?
No, give him a break. Just let's be serious. Let him finish. Just let him explain his example.
All right. So the lucky part is that this new part that was scanned twice actually incorporates this edge of the trees over here. Do you see this? There's just one line of trees that is scanned by the new technique. Can you see that? In 3D, it's quite obvious. You can see that there's trees that were scanned by this methodology over there, but not over here.
Sure, we see it.
All right, so that means that we can compare the height of here using the new technique and compare this directly to here. And we get a height, you can see the height over here in meters. We get 415 meters approximately there. And right next to it, using the other techniques, we get 395 meters. So there's a height difference of almost 20 meters right there in Google Earth.
Yeah,
okay. Do you have the same example for...
How much is that in feet? 60?
Do you have the same example for St. Bees?
No, I don't.
So what does this prove in terms of the observation height at St. Bees then?
I'm saying that there's an error bar of about 60 feet at least in Google Earth, and that is not going to their website and checking what data they actually give on the height inaccuracies, but actually using their program and not doing anything else.
Okay, so I've seen Anthony and Ranty run a tape measure down it, and it's accurate. But you're saying I should accept... Hold on. You're saying I should accept an extrapolation based on your local survey that Google does to extrapolate out the height at St. Bees, even though I've seen a tape measure run down it.
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, nobody except for you guys has seen Anthony's work. I mean,
Right.
we can't make sure that he's done it accurately.
You can go and do it yourself if you want to debunk
in the
Google.
same position.
If you want to debunk Google, go and do it yourself.
This is what I just did. I just
No, you
showed
did it
that
for a
there's an error bar
totally
in Google
different
Earth that is
area,
larger than your
GeoStreamer.
plane
Sorry,
elevation.
just no, that's
So
not what you
using
did.
this
Just let me
error bar
clarify
in
what
your-
you've just
your
did.
elevation that
You've
you're
shown
claiming
different
could be
elevations for a
below the
totally.
sea level.
Geo, can I just finish? You've shown a totally different location. This is not where the observation was taken from, was it?
Yeah, yes, I know. But
Right,
that's
so
not
what you're
relevant.
showing me
Again,
is that
this
Google
shows-
is inaccurate
Wait.
for this area, and there's a difference that it can demonstrate how inaccurate it is for that area. Now do the same for St. Bees. You can't.
How do you know? I can show using this methodology. As you guys
How
have
do I
seen,
know
that
what?
There's an error bar of, let me speak again.
How do I
please,
know
as well.
what? You were going to ask me a question. How do I know something?
Please let me speak as well. Okay. I showed that there's an error bar of about 20 meters in Google Earth using this position. You have no reason to assume that this error bar is smaller at different locations. You have no reason to assume it's larger as well.
So
But
what's
that's not the point.
what's the full range that Google quote in terms of the errors?
What's the what?
What's the range that they quote in terms of how inaccurate they are?
30 meters.
So up to 30 meters, and this is how much difference?
This here is 20 meters.
So it's not consistent with even their quoted figures for how inaccurate it be. So there's a range, correct?
Yes.
So there's a chance that that range could be at 0 at St. Bees then, correct, GeoStreamer?
Let me make that point.
No, I'm just asking you to clarify something. There is a range up to 30 meters. This is not at that full maximum of that range. Therefore,
Yes,
there is a
works in your
chance
favour.
that
This
in a
works in your
totally
favour.
different location, the range is different, correct?
Yes, but this
Right,
works in
thank
your
you,
favour.
GeoStreamer.
Hey.
Thank you. Excellent
Hey.
example. Pointless,
You did-
but thank you anyway.
Well,
Gio,
you-
let me ask you.
Wait, Anthony, please let me make my point again. Because I don't think Nathan understood it correctly.
Yes, I did understand it, and now I've just taken it to
Apparently-
pieces.
apparently you
Don't
did-
try and put
apparently
words
you
that I don't understand what you've just explained. There is a 20-meter
but-
difference between the two different scans. The original without it being accurately scanned, and the new one with it being accurately scanned. There is a 20-meter difference. The quoted range difference is 30 meters. If it was exactly as described, i.e. there is a 30-meter discrepancy, then I could extrapolate out that there is the same 30-meter discrepancy at St. Bees. But there isn't. There's a 20-meter discrepancy. So there is a
Yes.
range in terms of the discrepancy. This in no way proves the St. Bees observation position is out by 20 or 30 meters. It proves nothing.
Again, let me tell this to you again, because I didn't get my point across. You are right that this error bar that I can show here is smaller than the error bar that is given by Google. But this works in your favor. Using this example alone, you need, if you're honest, you have to say that there's at least a 20-meter error bar, and you have to work that into your considerations at St. Bees.
No, I don't.
This is not
No,
what-
my
this is not what you're
considerations
doing.
take into account the tape measure I've seen run down, and now I think this claim that you're making, that it's 20 metres out, is preposterous. It's wrong. It's ludicrous. If you want to claim that it's 20 metres out at St. Bees, show me at St. Bees. I couldn't give a crap what your forest in your local area do. For all I know, they've accounted for the height of the trees in the scan. I don't know what they've done in this
you can
scan.
do this as-
What I
you
do
can
know
do
is
this-
it doesn't match exactly the error that Google quote. Therefore, there's
Yes,
a
but it
range
works in your
still.
favour. It works
There
in
is
your
still
favour.
a range, and that range could be down to 0 for all I know at St. Bees. This proves nothing.
Again, if you're saying that that the 30-meter
that you,
inaccuracies of Google are preposterous, are exaggerated in some way, at least we can show that there's 20 meters difference. And now you have to work this into your calculations. You know that there's a height difference here of 20 meters in Google Earth. How can you say 100% sure that this height difference is not at St. Bees?
Because I've seen a tape measure run down it.
Hey,
Do you listen to the words coming out of my mouth, Gio? I have seen...
Well, let me make my point.
No, you're not listening. You gave me 2 seconds. How do I know? That's why I asked you to ask me, how do I know? I've watched a tape measure run down it. That's how I know.
Show it.
No! You show that it's incorrect without an extrapolation using your local area. You go to St. Bees. I'm not interested in you debunking Google's height. You want to debunk Google's height? Go ahead. If this is your standard of evidence for debunking a totally different location, then you're an idiot.
You're making the claim that you saw a tape measurement run down.
We're making the claim Google says 35 and 52. That's the claim. Listen to the words, Gio. The claim made is clear. Let me make the claim for you so you can understand. Clearly you don't understand what the claim is. Seems clear, Gio, that you don't understand what the claim being made is.
If I can't get my point across, there's no...
No, I'm going to tell you what the claim is because you're incorrect. We're not claiming it is 35 or 52 feet. We are saying that is the value Google claims. If you want to say it's inaccurate, that's good for you.
I'm sorry. Did you not just say that you saw a tape measurement done at St. Bees?
Yes.
Therefore, it's your claim that the height that you got from that is correct, right?
No, the Google claim is not wildly inaccurate, as you are claiming.
No, I'm talking about your claim. You're saying that you were...
I'm not making a claim. I'm saying I've seen it measured, and the height that Google claims it's at is correct. That's what I'm stating.
Yes, but you go from the assumption that the value that you got by measuring it at St. Bees was correct. Nobody of us has seen...
Do you think the tape measure was calibrated incorrectly?
What?
Do you think the 66-foot tape measure that I sent to Anthony Riley was calibrated wrong?
No, I think Anthony...
Right, well, the entire tape measure made it down the cliff with stuff to spare on the reel.
I think Anthony didn't do it correctly. He didn't show us any baller, his actual
doesn't need to. His claim is based on Google's altitudes.
Yeah, and you think that Google is accurate because you did that measurement from Anthony.
I think Google's totally inaccurate and represents the world as a sphere. Now, if you want to debunk that it's got the wrong heights when we're testing it as a sphere, that's up to you.
I already did that. The error bar is much larger than you guys think.
Good for you. You believe that, Gio. Good for you. Good. You believe that. I don't care what you believe based on your extrapolation, based on your local area. I couldn't care less. Believe what you like.
Let me have Alex for a minute. Alex, you've shown that the Osmokarong, whatever, that place on the map, I would agree with you that there is a discrepancy of 20 meters or whatever you say.
Yeah,
however,
I mean, you can check it. I gave you the coordinates. You can do it in feet. Sure. It should be about 60
Now,
feet.
if I did an observation from that point, it would be fair to challenge the height because there is an actual problem there that is evidential in the Google Earth, and I would agree with you. And we would go back and remeasure it.
Actually, we would go to an official map that has more accuracy.
No, you'd measure it. Anyway,
no.
Listen, my point is there any evidence to suggest that the same thing's happening where I was?
Yes, because...
Can you show it, please?
Well, as you can see... Oops, sorry.
Can you show it, please?
Yeah. Let's just stay here for a second.
No, let's go to St. Bees. Did you not understand the question? Alex, did you not understand the question? It seems you're having trouble with comprehension today.
The question, but I have to start from this this part so I can extrapolate to St. Bees. Let me
so
show
it's
this,
an
please.
extrapolation again. We've already had this. I've already had this extrapolation. I'm not interested in hearing it a second time. It's just you don't understand the question. Is there any evidence that this is occurring at St. Bees? Now you're saying I want to stay here and make an extrapolation. No.
I'm saying I'm going to St. Bees. I just have to stay here to explain to you the problem.
My apologies.
Why there? Why not St. Bees?
Because it's a nice place where I can show it.
But do you understand the question I asked you was there any?
Yes. I will show you.
Just hold on, Alex. Let's all stop talking over each other. Alex, I'll stop talking over you and give you a completely uninterrupted if you stop talking over me for a second. So, just for clarity, Alex, before you start, I won't interrupt you if you will let Anthony repeat the question one more time without interruption, please.
All right.
Is there any evidence from St. Bees that this is present?
Yes.
Can you show it from St. Bees, please?
I will show it from St. Bees, yes. But I have to stay here to explain this, because here I have the contrast.
No, you still don't seem to be understanding the question. You seem to be avoiding it and saying, I must stay here in a different location, Gio. That's annoying.
Oakley, didn't you just promise that you wouldn't interrupt me?
Yeah, because the question was quite clear, and you have now deliberately avoided the question. At St. Bees.
I'm answering it right now.
St. Bees.
Alex, is there any evidence from St. Bees that this thing is present?
Yes, okay, then let's go to St. Bees.
Thank you.
All right, do you see where's St. Bees? Doesn't take some time.
Hey, Globe Avenger, how you doing? Can you hear us?
So, St. Bees.
Hey, Globe Avenger, do you want to say something?
All right. Do you see how flattened or how unsharp this area looks? like, let me just increase the stretching of the height, okay, to the maximum factor that Google Earth allows. Oh, where is it? There it is. So this is now stretched in the y direction, meaning in the height by a factor of 3. Do you see how unsharp this looks?
I'm just looking at the divide with a boundary where you have it jumping from one elevation to 2.
What again? Okay. So you see that this is this is very unsharp.
It's the third time you've said that.
Yeah, but I didn't get an answer.
Well, it's on screen.
Yeah, but I didn't get an answer. I want him to repeat this so I can.
Do you see how unclear it is? It's like very vague. No, I don't see how unclear it is. It looks pin sharp to me. There you go. Did you want a contrary answer to your rhetorical question? No, it looks really sharp.
No, I mean the altitude itself. When we actually compare this to footage from St. Bees, let me just Google this to find a nice picture of it. It's called St. Bees Harbor. How is it called? Yeah, you know the picture that Randy showed with photoshopping in the caravans. That one. Hello?
Yeah, I'm waiting for your point.
Yes, I'm making my point. The point is, this is much less sharp than the actual photos that we get from it. We see a much harder cliff from here to here. There's like a ridge, the elevation being approximately the same over here, and then going down further rapidly. Now, again, back to the observation that I was making.
No. Sorry, maybe let me just get, before you do, let's just stay at St. Bees a little bit. Anthony asked you if you could demonstrate the same effect. So where you're about to go back and show that there's 2 different heights, can you show that at St. Bees? You seem to be leaving St. Bees. You seem to be doing it straight away. So you've used a rubbish example that's not the same as the example you gave.
I'm not comparing the 2 different heights right now.
Well, that's specifically what you're here to do. That's what you're contesting, Gio. What are you on about? So at St. Bees, you seem to have left St. Bees again. You seem to be in a different area, Gio.
Yes.
So you've already shown us this several times.
If you don't want me to make my point, then kick me out.
No. I'm trying to get clarity on your point. Your point is that there's 2 different heights at this particular location where these trees are. Anthony has asked you to demonstrate the same thing at St. Bees. Now you're back at the trees in a different location again. So can you not demonstrate that effect at St. Bees?
Forget him, he's gone. I'll take over from where he's come at, because I get what he's getting at, but he's not being exactly honest with what he's showing, and I'll show you for why. Okay, so can you see my screen? Nath?
Yeah, we see you.
All right. So what Gio was trying to claim is that in some way there is that divide where he demonstrated that there was a big jump between the elevations. Now, bear in mind, there is a 35-meter cliff here. I say cliff, hill. So it will drop because there is a hill there. But does that mean that there is a drop in elevation that there's therefore an anomaly in the program? So we see that it's 34 feet. And then when you go down onto the beach, it drops to 15 feet. So you would expect that to be there because it is an edge. It is a cliff edge or a hill edge. So Gio's point is valid in that area that he was in. It isn't valid in here. There is no evidence that there is a stitch line that can create the elevation drop that he seeks to rely upon. In the absence of a stitch line between the 2 points that he wants to rely on, it's an invalid point. And when he was saying that the 20-meter elevation drop worked in our favor, it doesn't work in anybody's favor. It's a moot point, and it's literally a straw man argument. It's not a relevant point at all, but he's passing it off as relevant, and it's nonsense. So unless there is actual evidence of a stitch line somewhere along here, and we can find a stitch line and we can see what the variation is. See if we can find one somewhere. Maybe we can't. No, maybe we can't. In any event, I hear what he says, and I ask him to apply it, and it fails because there is no evidence of it in the point that we're talking about. So it doesn't work. Bruising Ball, are you there?
I am indeed. The
How you
way to
doing, Breezy?
solve this is to release the video of you easily throwing the tape down the side of the mountain. Go do it. End it now, you idiots.
I wouldn't need. Why do I need to? It's not my claim that there's 30-meter variation in the heights on the elevation profiles on Google Earth. That's your claim. All I've done is gone to test it to see whether that has got any credibility to it whatsoever. And I'm happy that it doesn't, and I don't have to release it. And I agree with Nathan. It isn't for me to prove your case. It's for you to prove your case. And given that Alkay and Miles haven't released their evidence, I think it's a bit hypocritical to show me that I'm doing something wrong, because I'm not going to make your case for you. That's your case, not mine. I'm just seeing whether there's any truth to it, and there appears not.
Back when Alkay and Miles Davis were withholding the evidence, there was a slim possibility that Google was wildly inaccurate, 30 metres out, over 100 feet out, and some of the observations, mainly at Morgord Lighthouse, you could have brought the tippy tops of the lighthouse back in at those elevations. You couldn't bring the whole thing back in, but it does mean that there's certain parts of the lighthouse that could have been brought back in, namely the top, if you change the elevation height. So it needed to be checked. Their claim that it was higher needed to be checked to see if it had any validity. It doesn't. Now, if you want to reassert over and over again that it's a valid claim without any proof, then you're just morons. Asserting stuff, you're just coming from a position of total incredulity. I don't care anymore. I've lost interest. There isn't a slim chance that it's wildly inaccurate. None. So I don't care. Make your assertions all you like, and I'll just do what I did with Alex. Just get stroppy with you.
And I also noticed that Miles Davis was putting numbers into chat again. And when Miles Davis puts numbers into chat, he is a known liar. And we measured the numbers that he puts in his videos. Miles the Liar Davis, claimed that 40 feet observer height for when he was doing his observation from the same or a similar point that I was at in St. Bees. And when me and Ranty went and measured it, it was 29. Now, we didn't calculate it. We measured it. 29 feet. That was Miles's actual height. So Miles is a liar. And he's putting numbers into chat now to make people think that blah, blah, blah. No, Miles, you're a liar. You're a literal liar. Riley sniping people because he's getting called out on his lies. No, Riley sniped Gio because Gio asked to be kicked if he wasn't going to be allowed to present. And he presented and he kept going back to Germany. And we were trying to get him to present something to support the assertion that in some way Google had this stitch fault. Which, I mean, we're happy accepting that there's a stitch fault in that actual location. And I'm happy to accept that if there was something that was done there, that would be a fair critique. So when we asked him to present evidence to support the assertion that this was present in St. Bees, he didn't do it.
What he did do was ask us to assess the quality of crispness of image. How crisp is this image? It's like, this is a total nonsense. Very irritating.
There has to be a join where whatever scanning device they've used, that has to be there, and there wasn't any. So the reason why he was kicked was because he was being rude, and he's not normally rude. When I speak with him, he's relatively polite, but on this occasion, he wasn't. And he can blame Nathan if he wants to, but the reality was Nathan was keeping him on point, and ballers don't like being kept on point. They want to obfuscate. Paul does it, Rumpus does it, Gio does it. They all do it. But they don't like being kept on point. The specific question I asked was there any evidence in St. Bees that this was present? And the answer was yes. And I said, can you show it, please? He stayed in Germany. We wanted him to go to over to St. Bees. He didn't do it. He stayed in Germany. We asked him a second time to go to St. Bees. He didn't do it. Eventually, on the third occasion, after answering yes, there was, he went over to St. Bees and then wandered back over to Germany.
And there wasn't.
That's not what... Pardon?
And there was no evidence, his assertion that there was somehow comparison to be drawn between his example in Germany and the example in St. Bees. There was no reason to draw any comparison whatsoever. It was an extrapolation that he had made, and that's it. Well, I'm not interested. It's just nonsense. Like I say, I keep saying, at this point, anybody who is making the claim, not us, we're not claiming the heights are accurate or inaccurate at Google. That's not what our claim is. That's someone else's claim. But if someone else wants to come and show me that, then I'll look. But frankly, at this stage, I couldn't care less. I've gone, to my satisfaction, it has been demonstrated that the claims of Google in terms of the elevations at St. Bees are not wildly inaccurate. If anything, they're spot on.
Yeah. And let me just address the point that Geo did make that I wanted to speak up on, but I couldn't at the time because these two were back and forth. Geo said that Riley thinks that Riley might have fucked it up, the measurement, and I'm like, well, okay. Well, the only bit that you can claim that I might have messed up would be the measurement of the angle, and let's be honest, no matter what I do, will ever be considered to be credible. But the bit that I can do that's black and white that cannot be argued against is the length of the hypotenuse, and it was measured at 66 feet. So you can do what you want. You can claim anything against me that you want. Put the value into the hypotenuse at 66 feet, and you can quite easily get the height being the angle, the value that it is on Google, and it is. So it's not for me to try and prove your case. It's for you to prove your own case, and that you've got to prove that 30-meter elevation variation is present in this case, and it isn't. It was accurate, and that's why we stand by it. And I still stand by it unless there's produced evidence to the contrary. And if you want to go and prove Ordnance Survey wrong or Google Earth wrong or whatever, be my guest.
66 feet is the length of the tape measure.
Your value.
Not the measurement. Did you hear that? You said 66 feet, and 66 feet was the length of the tape measure that you threw down.
And Leandra, my missus, held it at the bottom. She held it at the bottom. So therefore, I wasn't even involved. All I was doing was at the top looking down, and I could see it said 66 feet, and we recorded it. And as Nathan correctly pointed out...
No. Hold on. That's not what I saw on camera on Skype. What you showed me on Skype was something different. Are you talking about a different... I've just nipped to the kitchen. Have I come back and you're now talking about a different position?
I don't know why. What did I say? Did I misspeak?
66 feet is the full length of that tape measure I sent you. That's the full length. If you completely unravelled it, it would come off the reel at 67 feet. So the 66 feet marked on that tape measure before it literally flies off the reel and you're left with just a tape without a reel on the end of it. So 66 feet is the measure of the tape. Well, when you threw it down the 34 feet observation, as noted on Google, the measure was considerably less than the length of the tape measure. There was plenty left to spare. But the measurement of what you read, I don't want to repeat it. I just don't want to give them any ammunition. This isn't your claim.
Right, okay.
Hello, Alan. How you doing?
Welcome back. If I miss... Well, we'll just go with the misspeak, and I'll cite.
I'm back from the shops, boys.
Excellent. Get
Did
those
you get
bonbons?
me two slices of gravitational constant?
No, but it sounds like you just got caught lying there, Mr. Riley. How do you plead?
Have you got any evidence for the assertion that I lied?
You didn't say 66 feet earlier.
Maybe I misspoke. What did I say before?
Exactly. Making it up.
I can't remember whether I
just gone over this. The tape measures 66 feet. That's probably why he's got the 66-foot measure, that particular figure in his head.
Nathan,
the bottom line is the tape measure made it down the hill without flying off the reel. So for anyone who wants to claim it's 115 feet, if you can explain to me how you can measure the hypotenuse angle of a 115 plus foot cliff on a 66-foot tape measure, then I'm all ears. But basically, that's why I'm getting so annoyed with people who keep claiming it's 20 metres out. It's like, no, that would mean that the cliff was 100 foot plus. Well, my 66-foot tape measure would not be sufficient to measure the hypotenuse of a 100-foot plus cliff. It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. I'm just sick of hearing it.
You okay today, right, Nathan? You seem angry.
You are quite right.
Alan, sorry, I didn't catch that.
Feet.
Can you repeat that, Alan?
You seem quite angry today.
Yeah, I'm sick of people coming out and making assertions from incredulity in terms of they're saying, here's my position in Germany, and look, you've got two different measurements next to each other, and there's a 20-metre discrepancy. Therefore, there must be a 30-metre discrepancy at St. Bees. And when you say to them, well, can you show any little stitches that show that there's two different measurements with different elevations recorded? And they go, no, look at the definition of the image. That to me is really frustrating. It's like, I don't have to prove the height that Google says. It's printed on Google. And that's the values we've been using because it's a spherical representation of the Earth you claim you live on. What's wrong with that? If you want to claim that Google's wrong, you, not me, then go and prove it. It's got sod all to do with us. The only time that becomes cause for concern is when a couple of dudes, Al Kay and Miles Davis, claim that Google is massively inaccurate, that it's wildly over the figure stated, at which point you go, oh, well, if that's the case, we could be making our points and wrong, literally wrong. So we better go and double check that their claim that it's hundreds of feet in the air is not accurate. We need to disprove their claim for our own satisfaction before we continue to assert the exact same stuff we have before now and after now. And the bottom line is we're not changing any of our positions. None. No evidence has been provided to us to back up the claim that Google is out by hundreds of feet. No evidence has been provided, but we're being put pressure on to provide that it's accurate. That's not our claim. Hi, Tony. How you doing?
What's up, guys?
Have you fixed your hairpiece, Tony?
I would like to, can we go back to the little thing you guys tried to brush under the rug right now, your discrepancy between you and Nathan or Anthony? Where you guys, where he took the measurement? Because you guys just can't even get that right.
What are you talking about? Yes. Be a bit more clear. What are you on about?
Well, so you guys just talking to brush it under the rug. You guys can't even get your two stories right.
What are you talking about? We're not making a story. We're not making a case for it, Tony. We're not making a case for the heights of Google. You are. Do you get that? We're not making any case for that. You are.
No, you just you just claimed that Anthony took a picture, took the measurement, and you said it was a different measurement.
No, he misspoke. He's quoted the length of the tape measure by accident. That's it.
That, please?
Yeah, if I misspoke, it was a misspeak, and I can't remember.
Oh, it was a misspeak. Okay.
He's telling fibs.
No.
Yes, he is telling
Let me
fibs.
just hold on. Let me state it as a fact. A 60-foot tape measure or 66-foot tape measure will make it down the cliff. So if you want to claim it's over 100 feet when you can measure it with a 66-foot tape measure, then I'm going to jump right all over you and say you're just lying. If you want to prove that assertion, hold on. If you want to prove the assertion that it's 100 feet, go out and prove it. That's not our claim. We're not claiming Google's anything other than Google, and that's the measurements that they quote. If you want to claim they're wrong, prove it. I'm not proving it. I'm not disproving it. That's not our claim.
Why would you bring up this whole measurement thing? Why are you bringing this up?
To disprove that it's hundreds of feet in the air.
Tape that goes 65 feet.
Listen, Tony, I'll explain. You've asked a question. Why measure it? I'll tell you. Because if the claim made by your side is to be accepted, that it is out by 30 meters, that could throw our assertions about the nature of the Earth into question again. So we needed to go and disprove that assertion, and we have. We don't need to prove a disproving of your assertion. That's nonsense. If you want to go and validate your assertion, that's up to you to do.
Correct.
Our whole discrepancy, our whole problem is we don't think that he took the measurement from the right place.
He took them from Google. What part of he took them from Google don't you get?
Right now.
Do you understand where he took the measurements from, Tony?
Right, listen, Tony.
Miles already showed where he was standing.
Tony.
It was 120 feet.
So have you got any evidence to back that up, Tony? Have you got anything to prove that, Tony? You just made an assertion, Tony, that it's 100 feet in the air, dickhead. Now prove it.
120.
Language.
All right, so Tony, Miles claims 120 feet. Miles has already been shown to be a liar, okay?
No, he has not. You guys have been shown to be a liar.
Listen,
you're lying right now.
Let's go back from the beginning, right? The video that I took, I put the value on Google Earth. The question mark was about how accurate the elevation was on Google Earth, and your lot said it's up to 30 meters inaccurate. I said to Nathan, there's no way that's inaccurate by that much. It might be a few feet here or there, but it ain't going to be 30 meters. But you guys corrected and compensated for a 30-meter elevation variation, okay? So I went back to see whether there was such a mega discrepancy about it. I rang Nathan, showed him the evidence, and when I came home and I showed him the evidence on screen, basically, we had the conversation, should we put this out there or not? And Nathan, initially, I was ready for putting it out there. Nathan said, hang on, think about it. They're the ones that are claiming that it's wildly inaccurate, not us. All we're doing is seeing whether it is or not. We're not making the assertion it's inaccurate. What we're saying is we've measured it and it's accurate. But the assertion is yours. Your assertion, your assertion is it's up to 30 meters accurate. We've measured it and it's not. So unless you get Miles with his magic tape measure to go back and misrepresent and lie about it again, then you've got nothing to say that it is. But we can prove, if we have to or want to, that it's not. And at the moment, we're not doing, because we want someone to go back and prove that it's not. Nathan has seen the tape been thrown over the edge. He's seen it measure. He knows the tape limit was 66 feet. we know that there was room on that tape. So it can't possibly be 120.
It sounds like he was looking at a different video. To everyone else, it sounds like he was looking at a different video. You guys aren't even straight on that.
What are you talking about? I was in touch with him all
15
day.
minutes ago, guys.
Tony,
Don't sit here and say it didn't happen.
Tony, you just made an assertion about what I know and have seen. I spent all day on the phone with Anthony, his girlfriend, and Ranty. All day, back and forth on Skype and phone calls, depending on how good the signal was. All day. Messing around, throwing tape measures over cliffs, taking photographs, taking videos, producing footage. And when they got back, I had to totally change my opinion on it. I was like, why are we having to prove or disprove this assertion? This isn't our claim. All you've ever said on every hangout to Anthony is that you've used the values on Google. Now, if someone else wants to go out and prove that Google's wrong in that regard, go ahead. We don't care. We're not here to validate Google.
And I agree with him. He's right. It's not our claim to prove. It's your claim.
It is your claim.
No,
you are there.
Your claim is that it's
Miles showed you to be
inaccurate.
in a different area.
Your claim is that it's 30 meters inaccurate.
That's very dishonest of you guys to not show the evidence you guys have.
Well,
the evidence is what it says on Google. Don't you understand, Tony? The assertion is this is the value Google gives. That's our assertion.
Yes,
even if you proved it wrong, we would still make the same assertion. Even if you went out and said it is 115 feet. Look, here's a measurement.
Okay, I get that.
We would still say
we are the
it's
ones
Google that we are taking the measurement from. We are not making this assertion. Google is. Now, if you want to go out and debunk Google, go ahead.
Testing Google. We're testing the Earth that we're standing on, Nathan. We already know that it's off. Why do you
we know it's flat. Flat as a pancake.
One discrepancy
flat as a
Google.
pancake.
We don't live in Google. We are not in a simulation. We are in the
you know
real
that it's
world.
off, Tony, but you haven't got any evidence to support
Whatever.
that.
You guys are ridiculous.
Okay,
just show us the evidence so we can do it. So you can shove it up
No.
by whatever.
No. What part of no
No,
don't you understand,
choke me
Tony?
down with it.
Don't care what you demand.
Fun,
Do you understand that, Tony?
Off this so we could all have fun again, but whatever.
Yeah, it may not be fun for you finding out the Earth is flat, Tony. Tough. You can't make demands of us in terms of what we provide you to back up your assertion. It's your assertion, you back it up. If you want to claim those cliffs are the wrong height, you provide the evidence and you make the assertions and you demonstrate that Google is incorrect. Me, I'm not interested. Now I know it's not wildly inaccurate. I couldn't give a crap what idiots like you just state without any proof. It's not interesting to me anymore. I just think you're an idiot.
Nathan.
Yes, how you doing, Alan?
Calm down.
I'm perfectly calm.
Okay.
I can assert my frustration without letting my blood pressure rise, Alan. I'm quite calm.
You need some beta blockers or something.
No, like I say, I'm quite good.
Slice of curvature.
Which of the two locations did Riley measure?
The one that was sighted in the video at 35 feet. The one next to the caravans. I didn't have a long enough.
So considerably lower than where you did the observations from, then.
No, about 20
Alan,
feet difference
exactly
on
where I
Google.
did the observations from. Would you like the video link so you can check it yourself?
I've seen the photos from Gem Panda.
Check the video. You can see that I was stood next to the caravans and I sighted 35 feet, which is what it says. According to Google, that's what it says. And that
Are you fibbing again? You were considerably higher.
Oh,
okay,
for
Nate,
God's sake,
share my
Alan.
Screen and I'll show it for the benefit of Alan. Obviously, Alan hasn't trolled me very well. Okay, Alan, are you watching?
Just a minute. I need to click on your face.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if I go into, I'm just trying to remember where it's in. Is it right here? It's in videos. And if I go down a little bit to one of the previous ones, there we go. So here is the original video. And in the video, I clearly point out that my location is just to the right of these caravans because it says in big letters, this is where I was stood. There's a picture of it, so I'll pause it here for a sec. Oh, just missed it. I'll go back to it. So
there you go.
there's the
That's
caravan
the claim
in
that's being
question.
challenged, Alan. Do you get that? This is the piece of footage that everyone else has gone and said because he's stood next to a caravan when he's claimed he's at 35 feet, they've all gone and got caravans and scaled them and rubbish like that.
Yes, but I've seen the verge of the hill, the edge, that doesn't match up with the second caravan.
Right.
It's
when he takes the
considerably higher
footage from the
up.
lower observation point, Alan, he rotates his camera and shows precisely where he stood, which is why that particular observation point, quoted as being 35 feet, has become so contentious and argued about. That's the one everyone wants to argue about because, of course, if it's at 100 feet and he said it's 35, it'll make him look really stupid. The reality is he's gone and measured it, and it is 35 feet. If you extrapolate the data from a tape measure that is 66 feet long and had plenty to spare on the tape measure when measuring the angle, not the drop, because you can't measure down straight through the earth, and unfortunately they didn't have 30 feet of poles to push it out to get a perfectly vertical drop. So you have to do an extrapolation. Another reason why I don't want them to put the data out there, because that's what people would focus on, rather than the measure on the tape. The bottom line is, if it's, hold on Alan, the bottom line is, if it's claimed to be over 100 feet, there is absolutely no way you could measure that 35 feet elevation with a 66-foot tape measure if it's over 100 feet. That's the bottom line here. That's why I'm not interested in these arguments anymore, and they're frustrating.
Yes, I can understand that. But did he make a Freudian slip earlier? He said it was 66 feet.
Yeah, I'll say it again a third time. The tape measure is 66 feet long. If he made a misspeak and quoted the tape measure length, that was incorrect. He has already apologised and said it was just a misspeak. The tape is 66 feet. When he threw it down the hill, there was tape to spare. If you were to do the same yourself and take a less than 100-foot tape measure and throw it down the hill, you would be able to measure it, even though it's at an angle. Meaning there is absolutely no way on earth that that is 100 feet. No way.
Present the evidence then.
No, there's no need. If you want to claim it is 100 feet, that's your assertion. We have taken the values off Google. The only purpose in measuring it is to disprove your assertion and your claim that it is 100 feet. We have simply taken the values on Google. If you want to go out and debunk Google, be our guest. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to prove your assertions in terms of the Google elevation, in terms of height. We just take those values and use them as is. If you want to say that there are different values to use at the observation and target height that are based on a spherical Earth, i.e. Ordnance Survey maps, then that's satisfactory too. I will, however, point out that the geodetic surveying system used in WGS-84 is based on an azimuthal equidistant projection and not a globe Earth, like Google is.
Release the evidence.
The evidence is the photograph and proof of where he was stood when he took that particular observation. That's the evidence.
I mean, if it's correct and I'm wrong, then where's the harm? It seems like you're hiding something.
No, absolutely not. What I'm saying is there is no point to give you fuel for your fire in your case and your assertion. If you want to prove it, we only went out there because basically two guys said he's definitely higher, we've measured it, and then didn't release the information. So at that point there is a doubt. There's a possibility that it was wildly inaccurate, even though Ranty and Anthony have both been there and said, nah, it's not. That's not good enough. They might have thrown the tape measure down and it literally run off the reel halfway down the hill, in which case we would have had to come back, cap in hand back here and go, yeah, there could be a problem. We could be off with the height. It could be at 100 feet. Well, no, we don't have to do that. But if someone wants to come along and continue to assert it, they need to back it up. Even if they were right, even if they did measure it and it was 100 feet, it wouldn't change the values plugged into the maths, because Anthony has consistently maintained we are using the values on your sphere model. Now, since then, they've all rejected that model in favour of an azimuthal equidistant projection at the centre of a celestial sphere. And that has been used to produce flat maps, again not wrapped around globes, in order to give them their heights. Fine, if that's what they want to do, but as I say, that's not a spherical Earth like Google Earth is, it's an azimuthal equidistant projection used to create Ordnance Survey flat maps. That's what they are now using. Good for them.
Okay, can I ask another question? Riley, did you measure both locations or just the one?
Tape measure wasn't long enough to get the hypotenuse on the higher one.
Ah, interesting, eh?
Yeah. Of course it's interesting. And also look at the depth. If you look at what, can you still see what I've got on screen?
Just hold on. I must clicky click. Go ahead.
So all I did was I threw the tape measure down, got it to a point where we could pull it taut on the beach. And then that gave us the hypotenuse length. We know that there is a 90-degree bend underneath Ranty because he was stood at the top, I was we were both stood at the top. My partner was stood at the bottom. So basically, there's a 90-degree bend at the bottom, and there's a bend down here at the bottom, which would never be accurately measured no matter what I did. So that's the reason why we didn't release it, because everybody would be unhappy with it. But the fundamental point was the tape measure was maximized at 66 feet, and there was plenty of excess left over. So that means that whatever value that you want to put there is the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse, you can calculate the angle, put it all together, give you a bit of physics for you all to enjoy. And basically, when we saw the length that was demonstrated down the length of it, it was right. We were like, right, well, it doesn't matter what the measurement down here is, because the hypotenuse puts it in a certain band of accuracy for the purposes of the height that we're trying to calculate. So when we realized, well, that's totally consistent with what it says on Google Earth. And the only point that it would do if I showed any more was that you would argue about how I accurately or inaccurately measured the angle. And I would then remind you guys that Miles didn't get any GPS coordinates or any 180-degree pan or any elevation data at all. Yet he's one of the big protagonists for the reason for why I'm inaccurate, and he didn't do it himself. So Nathan said, no, if you put that out there, all they will do is just focus on the bit that you can't prove, and it becomes wishy-washy. And I agree with him. All we were trying to do was see how accurate the original claim is by you guys, which you are unable to prove in any event. But we wanted to do it because we wanted to see. So, and again, I stand by my position. The height quoted in the video was 35 feet. And it's staying that way because it's not wildly inaccurate. What it says on Google Earth turned out to be 32. It was like 3 feet in our favor, but 35 is good. I'm all right with that. If anybody wants to measure it, go back and challenge it. Be my guest. Go and do it.
If I could be like Columbo for a minute.
Sure.
How did you know that it measure wasn't long enough for the second location?
Because firstly, because of the angle. The angle on that higher elevation is a longer angle coming out. I mean, I've exaggerated this. It was a lot closer to the edge, but I'm just showing you the trig that we did.
I can't believe you've exaggerated.
Well, I've exaggerated it for the purposes of illustration, but I could see that the other angle was significantly more, like the gradient was further out because of the way that the rocks were, or the way that the cliff edge was. I knew that I wouldn't have enough distance on the tape measure.
I guess I'll have to jump on the National Express and test it myself.
Again, you know, it's back to extrapolating out what people saw if you presented the information. If you want to claim
you're not
that
presenting the information, though, are you? Just
no, and we don't need to. The point is that if you want to extrapolate information out from no sources whatsoever, other than, well, the best we've had so far is GeoStreamer saying there's a stitch that shows a different measurement side by side each other in Germany. That's the closest we've got. You know, that's the extrapolation we have to accept from you guys. We're not saying extrapolate anything. Don't take our values. Don't look at our tape measure. Take Google Earth. That's what we're testing. That's what we're plugging in. And when it's come to Ordnance Survey maps, I have quite happily allowed people to use them at both ends. Use what you like. If you're saying the flat maps from a flat AE projection inside a geoid is what you want to use for your elevations to prove the globe, then you can be my guest. If you want to use Google Earth, be my guest. If you want to run tape measures down both sides at both target and observation, I'll accept those as well. So if people want to argue endlessly about what a tape measure says at St Bees and then completely ignore doing the same at Isle of Man, then it's a pointless exercise. So if you want to go out and get both target and observation position with a tape measure or a geodetic surveyor accurately measuring it, great, I'll use that instead. Till then, we use the same on both sides, Google Earth on one side and Google Earth on the other side, or the flat map from an AE projection that is inside a geoid. That we can use as well. We can use the heights given on the Ordnance Survey maps. I don't mind which. But as for just deciding that one of the distances is going to be changed because somewhere in Germany shows there's two different readings, that's preposterous. I'm not going to accept that in a million years.
Okay. Don't bust a blood vessel. Anthony, did you factor in the mean sea level to your measurement?
No, because the height is done above water, as we all know.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked the question. All these questions that would have been come up and dissected out in videos had he released the information. Precisely. You would add on mean sea level value to Anthony's measurement, correct? It would increase the value. However, he's measured the hypotenuse, so you would then argue about the angle and how much it would reduce it, and so we would go on forever in this pointless grey area that changes nothing in terms of Anthony's assertions. Nothing. So what's the point, other than it being a distraction technique by the Globers? Because then no one's going to go over to the Isle of Man and run a tape measure down there, are they? So this is a total nonsense. Pointless exercise. Unnecessary, and if you guys want to continue it and you guys want to go and debunk Google and their observation point at St. Bees, totally meaningless in terms of the observations of the things on the Isle of Man, be our guest. But it's not something I'm interested in anymore. Now I know beyond any doubt that the height of St. Bees is not wildly inaccurate on Google Earth. It is perfectly sufficient and satisfactory to use those values, or the Ordnance Survey values if you want to use them on both sides. I don't mind which, but using one measure with fence posts or scaled buildings or a tape measure at St. Bees and then not doing the same on the other side, it's totally unsatisfactory. Totally pointless in terms of anything useful for demonstration. So why would I accept it? It's pointless. Go ahead and debunk Google Earth on your own time.
112 hours.
And still no one's debunked it.
112 hours.
Yeah, flat Earth proof takes a long time.
Hey, Darkstar, how do any of us know that you went back to St. Bees? You could be making it all up. Do you know what? I'd agree with you.
I want to ask
given that I'm
a question.
reasserting the height of 35 feet, I'm reasserting that strong in the knowledge that I've measured it, and I'm happy that it's accurate.
Can I just ask Alan a quick question? Sorry to interrupt you, Sleeping Warrior. Given that the heliocentrists out there have had 500 years plus to model the globe, why is it that it fails to accurately predict what would happen at the photograph at St. Bees? Why did it fail in that regard, considering that they've had 500 years compared to our 100 plus hours? Why is that?
If you read the document that comes with Google, it does state that it's not accurate. It does say that.
Oh, right. I didn't ask about Google specifically. Maybe I'll say it again for those of you who don't understand or are deaf. So the heliocentrists out there, the people who believe the Earth is a sphere and travels around the sun, didn't mention Google in that. Just try and open your ears, Alan. The people who believe we're on a sphere, yeah, they have a model. That model has certain parameters, and those parameters can predict things. Why, given that they have had 500 years, did that model fail to predict the observation from St. Bees?
So, I guess the bottom line is...
No.
By the way...
Hold on. I don't mind a prolonged silence while Alan figures out the answer. He's telling us that we've had 100 hours on this show.
On a ham sandwich. Sorry, I was just
500 years, Alan, they've had to get the model right. Why didn't it predict this?
Well, we can't see Ireland.
We can see Morgord Lighthouse, and there is a 169-foot wall of Earth curve in the way on your model. It shouldn't be there, Alan. I'd like to know why your model failed to predict that it would be there.
I'm confused by this wall of Earth.
I'll explain it in very simple terms. If you stand at the bottom of a hill, and you have another house on the other side of that hill, you can't see that house because there is a hill in the way. Do you understand that, Alan?
Yes.
Right. Morgord Lighthouse is exactly the same as that house on the other side of a hill. There's a hill in the way, Alan. Do you understand it now?
That's the curve, Nathan.
Yeah, the curve that isn't there, because we do see the lighthouse. There isn't a hill blocking our way. I'm asking why... Hold on, Alan. You need it dumbing down, and I'm dumbing it down for you. I'm asking why your model failed to predict that. If you looked at the model prior to taking the photograph, it would suggest that you wouldn't see the lighthouse because there's a hill in the way, and yet we do. I'm asking why your model failed to predict that.
Because Anthony was considerably higher.
No, he wasn't considerably higher. You are wrong. Anything else?
Well, asking for the evidence that I was considerably higher.
No, he's just wrong. I'm happy to assert that. Anything else to
evidence
explain?
is
Hold on,
right.
Alan. Let's get summaries. So far, your assertion is the model didn't fail. The observer height was incorrect. Wrong. It fails when we use the Ordnance Survey maps at higher elevations. It fails with Google. It fails because geographically and geometrically, Moorgård Lighthouse is not visible. Fact. I still haven't had a decent explanation for why your model failed to predict it being there.
But when Riley threw the tape down the side of the cliff the second time, it didn't make it, did it?
Did anybody else hear that? I didn't hear that.
Yes or no?
I didn't even try.
Come on.
Yes, it failed.
It failed.
No.
Second revelation, Riley. Game over for you, my friend.
On what basis would that be a game over for me?
Seems to be lots of drawn-out silences and nobody explaining why the 500-year-old heliocentric model has failed to predict this observation. Still no answers.
Hey, Arwin.
Hello, Nathan, Riley.
Yo.
How you doing?
So, can someone tell me why that was a fail, please? Whoever it was that spoke.
Bruising? Who's that guy?
I'm happy for this to be a prolonged, drawn-out silence, Anthony. So I'll ask it one last time. Why did the heliocentric model fail to predict the observation from St. Bees? Anybody, please give me an answer.
Because the end result did not fit what they wanted it to be, so they kept the information from us. Is that it?
So, what we'll do is we'll, whilst they're working on an answer, we'll show what it actually shows at 35 feet. And then we'll just put the curve calcs on it again. And we'll see what it actually shows for whether the Metabunk website does what it says. So we can see that there is land that appears to be floating above the island, above the water. Now, some assert that it's Isle of Man, some say it's Ireland, but the closest land it can be is Isle of Man. So if we apply the Isle of Man thing to it, it's 31 miles. You can check it yourself. It's fine. You can challenge me on it if you wish. Let me pull up the curve calcs. So,
Got 60 seconds.
Metabunk, 60 seconds. Distance in miles. I think it was 35. We'll put it at 31 because that's Mackle. Oh no, I think it was 35. Viewer height was 35 feet, and the refractive hidden is 422 feet. And there isn't anywhere on the Isle of Man that is 422 feet on the far north side.
But the tape didn't make it all the way down the side of the cliff, did it, Riley, on the second measurement?
But that's not where this video was taken from, though.
Thank you for all of that information. Now we know you are a liar.
He's just showing this observation. This is where he stood. Can you see that?
The tape did not run out of tape. It was maximized at 66 feet.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this show. And, of course, a massive thank you, every time, to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.